Hello, all of you. I hope you have got benefited from my analysis of paper 1 of 2020 main geography optional. As I committed, I'm dedicating this video to the analysis of paper 2 2020 geography optional. This question paper was absolutely on the track of what it has been. We all are aware of the fact that paper 2 is essentially application part of paper 1. As I mentioned in the discussion of paper 1, that we had exponentially high demand of Indian context of answer writing. Paper 2 being absolutely geography of India, I have to focus my answer writing to the Indian perspective. That goes by default. So the only unprecedented thing that we have noticed in this year main examination for our optional is that there was quite high demand of Indian perspective in paper 1. With paper 2, I'll certainly not ask to take the conclusion as it was out of box paper or it was a difficult paper. It was absolutely as usual trend of the paper. And yes, one very important thing, and I emphasize that throughout our test series program, examiner for last few years have started giving us repetitive nature of questions. And this is where the aspirants must take note of which question they select in answer writing. Because if you select the two questions in the consecutive sequence, which has got more or less same content to be written, you are actually costing, you are actually challenging the score that you can ultimately attain. So, and I must say that we also tried to include the same. I gave you several repetitive questions in a single question paper to give you a first-hand experience of how to go about with selection of the questions if I see some sort of overlap in the questions. So, not wasting much time, getting on to the question by question analysis of what was required to be written in the asked questions, including map items. Right, so paper 2 2020 main examination. If I have to begin with the map items that was being asked, so labeling it, question number 1, part A, all the places precisely, I'll not find these places to be somewhere difficult ones, but yes, they were the places that were there in the newspapers. And as we conducted 9 dedicated tests with the map items, most of these items are right there from our map test list as well. The first name that was asked was Vadhavan. I hope all of us are aware of the fact that this is the 13th major port that is to be developed by Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust. And it will be handling all the types of cargo. And among the 5 new ports that have been suggested in Sagarmala, Vadhavan, Maharashtra is an important example. So you can easily take up the reference of that in your writing. The second item that was asked was Salkhan. Salkhan came into news as the fossil park. It by default is correlated to Sonbhadra district, I'm in Uttar Pradesh. The extensive fossil remains have been identified here at the foothills of Kaimur range, so it is sufficient. You identify Uttar Pradesh and you justify on the factor of it. Then comes Kurg. I think it's something which is very conventional item, so we cannot emphasize much on it. Kurg coffee, Karnataka. Tourist destination is also recognized as Scotland of India. So conventional one, I just want to leave it. Then comes up Mau. The reason it has been there in our map item list that it has been renamed, and I hope you are aware of the fact that it is now being called Dr. Ambedkar Nagar. And where are we with Mau? We are in Madhya Pradesh. We are in Indore district of Madhya Pradesh. And because we are taking up the location slightly south of Malwa Plateau, so you can easily identify the characteristics relating to pulses, cotton production, it is maize production area, and etc. Is the airport, Shillong, Meghalaya. It has come into the news items. It was being mobilized, it's operational since 1970s. But there has been revamping and reorganization of it. So 2011 onwards, there have been revamping of it, and that is possibly the reason it has been integrated in our map list. So Umroi is nothing but Shillong Airport. I am talking about northeastern region quite strongly in the radar. Then comes in Tuticorin, renamed. Major seaport of our country, Gulf of Mannar, neighboring protected areas, renamed Tuticorin, so that is the reason you can justify its prominence. This was the item that was being found challenging by some of you. Bargarh is in Odisha, in the western interiors of Odisha, and is essentially known for paddy cultivation. But what was the reason that it was there in newspapers, and possibly that is the reason it is right there in our examination, is that excessive use of pesticide have led to tremendous increase in the cancer patients in this region. Basically, when I have to talk about this region, it has been in newspaper accounting for more than 26% of the cancer patients of Odisha. So paddy cultivation zone, but because of the indiscriminate utilization of pesticides. So you can take up that as the prominent purview to it. The other items requires no defined mentions, whether I talk about Atal Tunnel, or I take the reference of Guru Shikhar, very popular and easy ones, or for that matter, Bumla. It is only Bargarh that I have not included in our map test items. The rest all the items were there in our map. I change over and we continue to our question number 1, compulsory question, part B. The question is writing, climate change has unsettled the rhythm of season, comment with examples and empirical evidences. So I have to take the rhythm of climate change. In this question, what we have to take into account? The unsettling. And I have to judge this with examples and empirical evidences. So logically speaking, does it sound convincing that my answer should be framed as IMD defines Indian season? IMD identifies Indian season to be divided into 4. So we have got 4 seasons. You take support of these 4 seasons, identify 4 seasons with the changes. So I'm talking about dry winters. I talk about dry summers. Then I talk about southwest monsoons. I'm purposefully not writing the extension. You all are aware of it. And then I have got northeast monsoon, right? You have to justify that unsettling of the rhythm of the season cycle. Unsettling because now we are having significantly prolonged factor. As per the Indian calendar and as per the climatological factor, we mark the beginning of apparent shift of sun towards north from Makar Sankranti. And if I take that Uttarayan, it automatically means that the temperature should start increasing and that we should start experiencing longer duration of day. But if I see today's IMD's prediction also, it justifies that the northern plains of India is right here to reel under further dip of minimum temperature. Means every factor is marking up its modification. So dry winters associate with what? Western disturbances. Western disturbances do not correlate with hail, but hailstorm, that too in Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. See your question carefully. It is asking you to write about empirical evidences and example. It is for last few years now that we are having the ready to be harvested Rabi crop getting completely flattened because of the hailstorm. You can quote that example. Cold wave conditions I have already mentioned as the case that you can justify. Dry summers, we are having unprecedented heat wave conditions. And not just this, we are also having the hailstorms that are being experienced, precisely justifying the extreme conditions evolving. Unpredictability in the rainfall pattern. If I just ask you to take up the reference of variability of the rainfall, quoting example of last few years, this year we had on the monsoonal season, this year I'm talking about 2020, we had the monsoonal precipitation pattern where all the semi-arid areas were actually experiencing flooding conditions. And when it comes to retreating monsoon, by default, the cyclonic circulation is actually giving us super cyclones. And as I've mentioned super cyclones here, you know that we have got Kal Baisakhi, but among the super cyclones, we experienced several super cyclones in the last few years, even in the dry summer season, which again is unprecedented. Logic was that you organize your rhythmic season cycle and then try to justify how the things are becoming unsettled. It is going beyond what is being considered as the normal scenario. Okay, question number 1, part C. It read, discuss the methods of crop residue management in rural India to reduce pollution. Discuss the methods of crop residue management. So crop residue management. And what I have to write? To decrease pollution. So you must start your answer justifying what is the status of crop. Indian agriculture continues to be crop dominant culture, right? And there is a general absence of awareness plus absence of mechanism for management of crop residue in the country. And that has been the reason that India has been a strong example of stubble burning. And we precisely started taking it as the most common and the easiest way of get rid of the crop residue. It has been with the recent understanding of CPCB's, Central Pollution Control Board, Air Pollution Index, I'm talking about the reference of SAFAR, identified with the account of National Ambient Air Quality Standards, where we are taking up the real-time assessment and the choking air, absolutely hazardous level of air pollution that has been there in Northern Plains, specifically in National Capital Region in around, along with the states of Haryana, Punjab, that this has started gaining the prominence. Now the question is asking you to take up into reference crop residue management to decrease pollution. And by default here you have to take up the account of, and I'll insist on this, happy seeders, residue retention, composting, use in states, power plants. Excellent answer evolves, because you have to justify what is crop residue, what is the cause of it, it contributing to the cause of air pollution, and then what we are doing. Next question is question number 1, part D, and it reads, as the regional aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir have been addressed through reorganization of state, make an assessment. Regional aspirations are addressed by reorganize. Now we all can easily understand that it is too early for us to judge whether the aspirations are addressed or not. So in this particular question, I need to give examiner a sort of a balanced look. So you can easily start the answer with the account of the status of Jammu and Kashmir, status of erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, with the presence of Article 370. What exactly was the scenario that prevailed in the state? Because you need to take up the judgment of it. The purpose of Article 370 was to somewhere fortify and safeguard the aspiration of this particular region. But then this particular region, which surely makes up the example of the Muslim dominant, only Muslim dominant region of our country in terms of a state, I'm talking about erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir. People of Jammu and Kashmir surely incorporate other communities also. So you start your answer with the status wherein you have got many important aspects that has to be applied. So revoking, combine them. Revoking of Article 370 or the status of the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir is actually correlated with lack of mainstreaming, lack of job creation, absence of fulfillment of growth aspirations, geopolitical and so claimed atrocities against native population, the provision of integration, inclusion, parity, while sustaining individual identity is what is justified to be the idea behind revoking Article 370. So you should start your answer, you must have started your answer by giving justification of what type of aspirational fulfillment was being restricted with the special status of the state and what we are likely to attain. There has been major modifications in the economic planning towards this union territory of our union now, and today we had on the new hydel power project that has been mobilized with NHPC, Government of India, and the Jammu and Kashmir Power Corporation, precisely giving us more inclusive, and that is the reason I have highlighted all these terms, It is too early to talk about whether we are going to satisfy the aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir or not, but reorganization certainly is going to provide silver lining to the otherwise darker cloud in this region. This sequence, the answer should be. And then you can cite some examples. I've just quoted example of tidal power plant. You can talk about the infrastructure development. Question number 1, done. Now we are getting on to question number 2. So question number 2, part A. Identify areas covering under tribal subplan. So tribal subplan, areas covered. And then it reads, discuss the programs initiated to address them. Tribal subplan is implemented as ITDP and MADA since the 5th plan and 6th plan respectively under Tribal Area Development Program. The distinction between them is that ITDP is applied to those states and union territories where scheduled tribe population are in majority at block or tehsil level, and MADA is applied to those states and union territories where scheduled tribe population are in isolated primitive population. Whether it is the reference of ITDP or MADA, the programs that have been mobilized under it correlates to Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana involving protective clauses and developmental clauses. Protective clauses incorporate the 5th and 6th schedule provision from the Constitution, and developmental clauses incorporate National Scheduled Tribe Finance and Development Corporation along with TriFed. Here you can specify some of the programs. Like if I say Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana, I have got 10 hierarchical programs that are largely related to the developmental aspect. Or you can certainly add on the component. If I just highlight it, these are the programs that we justify. So ITDP, MADA of tribal subplan is now part and parcel of Van Bandhu Kalyan Yojana. And if I have to integrate it further, we all have tribal circuit in Swadesh Darshan. So this automatically is going to give the further edge towards the developmental program towards the tribal area. So quoting the answer in this frame and thereby citing some examples, we can easily understand that address their problems. My problem is my right, recognition of my right to my land and forest protective, recognition of my aspiration in the administration protective. It is my development as per my own field of expertise. Because when I talk about the core theme of tribal area development, it goes with, and I'll write it here boldly, isolationist and assimilate. So you have to actually somewhere take up the reference of these two to justify the programs. And then you have got all the plentiful opportunities to talk about different programs to prove your point. Question number 2, part B. Soil types in India. I asked this question. Tribal area also I asked in examination. Soil types in India classified on the basis of color possesses specific chemical and mineral characteristics. Discuss. Simple point. Indian Council of Agriculture Research classifies 8 different types of soil in India, and they by default are classified on the basis of their color and mineral composition. If I take up the reference of color, mineral composition, chemical composition, I need to be very cautious with the range. So as geographers, we say major type of soil includes alluvial soil, black soil, red soil. So color automatically is coming up. Forested soil, desert soil, and minor type of soil comes up as laterite soil, saline alkaline soil, and peat bogs. So the appropriate framing of this answer is divide your answer into major and minor category. With each one of them, identify their chemical composition and color factor. Like alluvial soil, do incorporate bhangar and khadar. And when I take the reference of bhangar as wetland, I do incorporate kankar to it. So I'm giving examiner the clarity of the mineral composition, which is giving me fertile or infertile characteristics. Similarly, if I try to emphasize it on red soil, black soil have got dark black soil, medium black soil and light black soil. Very conventional. I think you all must be aware of it. So you can easily write it up that way. When it comes to red soil, you have got the categories that are demarcated as red brown and red yellow. So I hope you are understanding. You are actually required to write the typical conventional answer on Indian soil type, only that you must remain focused on the color, the location, and of course the chemical and mineral composition. Alluvial soil is rich in nitrogen, but can be rich in calcium if it is related to semi-arid location. Alluvial soil is essentially deltaic in the coastal plains, but in these deltaic coastal plain soil, I have got the exception that goes up with Narmada Tapi. So you can easily take up that. I'll say it was a typical convention. Question number 2, part C. The pharmaceutical industry in India depends on imports of raw material. Evaluate this statement in view of India-China relationship. Now you have to write this answer in terms of pharmaceutical and India-China relationship. Okay. So we are taking up the reference of near 63% of pharma input as APIs and intermediate is imported in the country. And more important to this, 70% of total imports is from China. So the actual profile comes in is that India remains a pharmacy of world, but problem is that China is numero uno when it comes to the input instability. So if you can see the account right here, we have to start our answer with the reference of the profile. And once we take that profile into account and then add on the present scenarios of the challenges. Because when I take up the reference of COVID, when I pick up the reference of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and when we are taking up the reference of consistent decline in the relation between India and China, specifically due to Doklam and then Jammu and Kashmir, we are still having the evidences which proves that there is a massive infrastructure built up by China in the border area. So that automatically creates on the problem. Added to it, whenever we talk about the reference of pharmaceutical segment into account, it comes up with the reference of Indian planning to minimize it. So we are having at least 2-part program. So we are taking it here. Let it be that all is visible to us. There is 3 bulk drugs parks to be developed to promote domestic manufacturing, and that we are having production linked incentives. These are oriented towards generating self-sufficiency in the crucial chemical compound to manufacture formulations. Jan Aushadhi. So if I have to take up the import factor, India is one of the major producers of pharmaceutical, that too with the cost-effective manner. But in this question, there is an interesting twist that has been applied. And that twist that has been applied is that we have to take up the reference of Chinese prominence when it comes on to the API and intermediate. India is working towards the program that is oriented towards generating self-sufficiency into this. But as the IPA, the Pharmaceutical Alliance identifies that it will take few years for us to get onto the reference of this. But our dependency on China to the tune of 70% by default justifies our vulnerability of this sector. So there is the mobilization. And of course, with India making up the beginning of the largest vaccination program against COVID, our standard as the pharmacy and our capacity towards formulation is very high, but API and the intermediates which is required for the formulation remains a challenge for us. So you have to integrate the two things, status of pharmaceutical sector and the status of ever depleting diplomatic and strategic relation between India and China. Question number 3, part A. India has opened up its space to private sector for the satellite based activity. So you can easily take up the reference of this as there has been 3 aspects to it. So if I have to quickly enlarge it, I'll say, what are the 3 aspects that we have opened up the space to the private sector? That is relating to building of rockets, satellite, and providing launch vehicles. Second relates to interplanetary mission, and third relates to interplanetary exploration mission. You can also easily give examiner the mention of implementation to be facilitated by a new agency, that is in space, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, and it is aiming at providing level field for private players. There is also the provision that has been integrated of restructuring ISRO to remain confined only on research and development and scientific mission, whereas there will be the New Space India Limited, where the other activities will be hybrid. And yes, this New Space India Limited will be government. So what you have done with the first part of your answer, in the first part of the answer, you are providing the details of what are the new aspects that has been mobilized in the private sector being opened up for the space, which has never been the case. But the question is asking us, critically examine its implication, indicating the major security concerns. So I have to give examiner the concerns that are related to it. So I have started my answer talking about which are the areas where private sector have been provided provisions, what are the major policy changeover that has been applied to facilitate it, and then we take up the reference of the challenges that are correlated. I'll just zoom it out so that you can see it completely. Now, when we take the reference of space technology and the factors, so anything that you take into account, I take remote sensing, I take tracking land use pattern, I justify resource mapping, I take telecommunication, or I take range of other services that goes with banking services, broadcasting services, anything. You can take up the reference of all of them. So the point is, these all are going to be influenced, and as the sector is cost intensive, it is surely the big corporates that are going to have the monopoly. And if that will be the case, we need to always remind ourselves of the fact that India is a geopolitically sensitive country, and anything that is correlated to any sort of private participation with slight indiscriminate purview, with more of the development of monopoly, is going to create trouble for the entire sector. Start your answer with which are the avenues that have been opened for private player, identify the policy changes that have been applied, and then try to judge. It is up to you to decide what exactly are likely to be the critical implications relating. Question number 3, part B. Identify oil seed producing areas in India and discuss the measures to promote edible oil industry. So oil seeds and edible oil industry. So first part of the question is asking us to take about the oil seed sector, right? So if I have to take this account of oil seed sector, I can start my answer with Krishi Unnati Yojana. In Krishi Unnati Yojana, you have got a specific dedicated program which talks about National Mission on Oil Seed and Oil Palm. In National Mission for Oil Seeds and Oil Palm, oil seeds are categorized into two, the edible oil and non-edible oil seeds. You can easily start up your answer with this. In the edible category, we have got groundnut, we have got rapeseed, we have got soya bean, sunflower, Niger, sesamum. And when it comes on to the non-edible, we are talking about castor and linseed. And then we are also having oil palm. So you can take up this oil palm factor separately. And if I take the account of yellow revolution in the country and the mobilization of edible oil production, so India is having the present scenario, and that is what we are deriving from National Mission of Oil Seed and Oil Palm. So we are taking of some 25 million tons of edible oil requirement that we are having in our country, India is producing some 10 million tons of edible oil. So status 1. Status 2. Oil seeds are largely produced in the rain-fed area. It is more than 70% of the area that is rain-fed under oilseed. We still are reeling under the trouble of high seed cost. We are still having the problem of small land holding, and we are still reeling the under problem of low productivity. So once I have given examiner these points of the status, if I write that expression here, status. So I have introduced my answer with the status point, Krishi Unnati Yojana, National Mission on Oilseed and Oil Palm. And what is the present purview? It's 10 million tons of the 25 million tons that we are domestically producing, rest we are dependent on import. And the production profile of oil seeds in the agricultural sector is also not very promising. Taking all that into account, we are having national mission, I'm writing mission only, national mission of edible oil, because program is being asked. And when I take the national mission of edible oil, it has got 5 years, 2020-21 to 2024-25, right? And then what are the important aspects that have been mobilized under it? So the aspects that are mobilized under it is including primary source, that are all annual plants and edible tree-based oil seeds, and secondary source with rice bran oil and cotton seed oil as its submission. Aim is to increase productivity, decrease import dependency, and increase value addition. So you have started your answer with National Mission on Oilseed and Oil Palm, and you have taken your answer to the mission, National Mission on Edible Oil, because the question is specifically asking you to write about what are the measures that have been there for the promotion of edible oil industry. So answer becomes easily done. I go to question number C, part B, question number 3, part C. Interesting change in the term has been applied. Give a reasoned geographical account of changing rural folk houses in India. Changing rural folk houses. And if you have missed out on the key term here, folk houses and changing, you possibly have not attempted this answer correct. In northeastern India, in southern India, and in western India, we have got few of the prominent examples that can be justified. So if I just to enlarge them, this is largely with bamboo on elevated platforms. South, we are largely having rocks and wood. However, when it comes on to the example of Toda tribe, we are also having the cloth-made tents that are being applied. When I go to west, we essentially take into account the Bunny tribe or Meenas, and they are identified with the mud and husk house. So point 1, you have to take up the reference of rural folk houses. Rural folk houses goes with a defined set of terminology related to it. They all are identified to be known for vernacular architecture, which are so unique that it cannot be generalized, but still they are demarcated into kacha construct, pakka construct, and semi-pakka construct. So you prove your point putting on some examples in the first part of the answer. And then because it is asking us to take geographical account of changing rural folk. So I have selected these locations to justify the geographical account of the factors. And then if you have to take the reference of changing, so change automatically comes up with not just tribal area development, but also Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. the provisions can be written into account and you can justify the changing. More inbuilt amenities, more identified with favorable cooking sources. I'm talking about Ujjwala, then you have Ujala, you can easily take up the references of them. So you have to justify rural folk houses. So remain focused on tribal areas. Question number 4, part A. Border area development is important national priority. What are the resilient steps needed for peaceful border? Border area along land front with a range of challenges that are attributed to the border related challenges, river water sharing, cross-border terrorism, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, and so on and so forth. And when I take up the reference of resilient step, what we needed to take into account. Because if you take these kinds of points, your answer will not become fragmented. Resilient step is making them, the border area people largely is applied with, and you can use certain terms that we utilize in geopolitics. Border area people are largely correlated with what is called frontier ethic, because they somewhere represent the buffer cultural identity. And in order to make them resilient, we need to make them feel more included into the main course of development. And within that, you can cite down the example, whether it is road sector development, electricity, housing, or any other. Question number 4, part B. Stunting and wasting among the children are major consequences of food insecurity. Discuss various schemes of Government of India to address this problem in their achievement and their achievement. Once you have given examiner the defined definition of global hunger index base, stunting and wasting, and identify that India continues to reel under serious category of hunger, with the most vulnerable category being children, largely in the age of less than 5 years, which is also to do with the fact that maximum of mothers, young mothers, are themselves anemic. You have given examiner the nature of stunting, wasting in the country, identifying the dimension of hunger that is correlated to hidden hunger with protein and calorie. And you are justifying it to be also related to the mothers that are somewhere suffering from hunger themselves. This is where you can extend your answer and you can justify the reference of Niti Aayog's assessment of sustainable development goals. I'm specifically talking about one which talks about no poverty, because somewhere poverty has to do with hunger. Number 2, that talks about zero hunger. And do take into account number 3, that talks about health and well-being. Because when you are attempting to write the answer on the geographical perspective, you need to give yourself some sort of support to justify the spatial dimension. And then every one of us would have written this, that I'm talking about the National Nutrition Strategy that is related to the Poshan Abhiyan, which aims at creating Poshan Mukt Bharat. And you have got range of orientation that you can apply here. Whether I talk about the Poshan Pakhwada, I talk about ICDS, I talk about midday meal scheme modification, I talk about the mobilization of one nation, one ration card. You can have all the aspects related. Question 4, part C. The Essential Commodity Amendment Bill 2020 aims to deregulate the production, supply and distribution of farm produce, critically examine its spatial consequences. So you must start your answer talking about what is this bill all about. The first thing you should mention very clearly is that 1955 Essential Commodity Act is being supplemented now with this 2020. It has deregulated cereal, pulses, oil seeds. So there is very clear likely possibility of questioning the food security. From here, you can justify the spatial dimensions and the critical factors that is correlated. Because when I say essential commodities amendment bill, it's not just what are deregulated, it is also what is being regulated there. Because you have to justify its farm produce factor. So if I have to take only farm produce factor, I can easily incorporate that food stuff, cotton yarn, remains in the domain of essential. So what is deregulated and its implication, what remains there, and because farm produces us, it is not only about food, it's farm produce. Whether I'm talking about demand-driven supplies of water, demand-driven mobilization of any sort of growth purview, which incorporate by the same people and for the same people. And you can take up the account of anything, social forestry, road development, drinking water supplies, any range. So what you should do with this answer is, you are taking up this bottom-up strategy as your key expression. And as you try to justify the development of it, you are proving it with examples. Here you can, as geographer, there is the possibility that you can utilize one important aspect here. And what is that important aspect that I'm talking about? Here you can easily take up the reference of use of population as a social capital, because it orients towards recognizing common challenges with common prospects. It actually aims at mobilizing. This is how the answer should have been created for this question. Coming on to question number 5, part B. Elucidate the benefits of neem-coated urea scheme in Indian agriculture. Urea, the nitrogenous fertilizer, eutrophication and denitrification related challenges marked up its development. Denitrification, where nitrous oxide, tropical climate, rice dominant food culture, alluvial fertile soil, canal facilitating water availability, increasing monocropping of. Careful with the selection of the choice that I'm taking up here. You have to be very clear. Monocropping of food crops, essentially rice. And prove it, whether I take Nandayal Valley, and I'm purposefully taking up the example of it because when I write alluvial plain, I essentially take into account that alluvial means I'm in coastal plain. No, I can be in the interiors. Chhattisgarh plains. I have got the dominance of monoculture. Question number 5, part D. Yes, D. The pattern of growing ecological footprints is uneven in nature. Analyze in reference to land resources in India. Ecological footprints, unequal, and we have to write it in reference to land resource. So careful. First thing that you can do is that you can start writing the answer on what is meant by ecological footprint. So let us take the beginning from there. This measure is promoted by Global Footprint Network in order to measure human demand on a natural resource. And mind it, in accordance to it, India is considered to be the example of the country which is biocapacity debtor and ecologically deficit country. Means we are pressurizing more on our natural capital or natural resource. Here you can supplement the term as capital also. Because the question is asking is unequal with the land resources, you need to take up the reference. Land resources in the country by Survey of India is categorized as arable and non-arable, but that precisely will not be giving me much support. So I can divide my land resources on the basis of relief. So from mountain to plain to plateau, I can easily justify that the ecological footprint will be highest in plains because of population pressure. However, mountain areas, being ecologically more fragile, will have the different magnitude of change. You can write it as arable and non-arable also. That is also the good way of writing. But with land resource, better thing is that I grade them in terms of their relief, because that justify how the land resource is marking up the variations. Okay, question number 5. And question 7 part C. Carefully see that in both these questions I have been asked about urban sprawl and squatter settlement. This is a repetitive type of question that we have. Question 5 reads, identify the challenges faced by generative and parasitic town. Let me write this down. And if I just read question number 7C also, so it will be easier for us to analyze it. Urban sprawl around planned cities have evolved squatter settlement around plants. Now what I'm doing is I'm highlighting generative, parasitic, urban sprawl. And I'm taking the technical support from our settlement geography to make this answer geographic. So what I do is, careful, types of urban growth includes infilling, edge expansion, and spontaneous growth. If I have to prove it diagrammatically, infilling is, edge expansion is, and spontaneous will be, wherein this shade is for old and this one is for within urbanized space, outward extending, leapfrog, open space spread. And mind it, urban sprawl goes with these two, wherein when I use the term generative, I'm taking it to be the contributor of economic growth, contributor to economic growth. And when I take parasitic into reference, it is largely related to non-contributing status. Parasite, it is gaining out, it is not contributing. When you talk about squatter settlement, you can certainly give examples of slums that have been developed. Mind it, in both the question, examiner is asking me to write about outgrowth of urban places. So question 5 is compulsory, you have to attempt it. So 7 should not be attempted, because it will be very difficult practically for me to avoid repetition in these two questions. Right? I go to question number 6 part A now. Question 6 part A. Digital divide in India needs a quick redressal to reduce regional disparity in development. Elaborate with suitable example. Question number 6 part A have attained its prominence with the present purview of COVID. Start your answer with digital divide. What is meant by digital divide? It is gap between demographics and regions in terms of availability of communication information technology. Gap between demographics and region, which tends to create economic division, usability division, employability division. At present status, India has 400 million internet users. Internet density continues to be at 25% in rural area, where we still have more than 60% of country's population confined. Whereas the same is 90% in urban area. Once I have given examiner the status, we can easily take into reference whether I talk about Industry Revolution 4, I talk about smart agriculture, I talk about online education that has become more compulsion in the present COVID times, will continue to have concentrated existence in the country. We need to work towards ensuring that there is the availability of affordable internet, teleconnectivity, internet of things, internet, artificial intelligence, smart decisions, everything that works up towards it. Whenever we take up the reference of communication technology, India is required to somewhere bridge this digital divide. I won't be in the position of effectively mobilizing it if the CIT services. I get to question number 6, part B. Avalanche is a major hazard in Himalayas. What are the causes and mitigation? Snow avalanches, debris avalanches, snow avalanches into, over and above snowline, debris avalanches along all the slopes with unstable characters. Type and nature of hazard that is identified to be avalanche is geomorphic in nature. However, it is multiplied of its characteristics because of climate change and is also related to the unsustainable land use in the mountainous area. National Disaster Management Authority at par with Sendai, barriers creation, land use planning, awareness creation of do's and don'ts with NDRF and armed forces. Preparedness incorporate one very important thing to minimize the loss of critical infrastructure. All dimension covered. Question number 6, part C. The process of demographic transition is not uniform in India. Examine this statement in context of demographic transition. What you have to do is that starting from 1951 to 1975, the first phase of antinatalism in India, we had a regional inequality of response. Southern India responded and Hindi heartland. That time it was referred like this. Now, of course, we can call them EAG states. Failed to respond, have taken different mitigation measures. It was a conventional question demarcating the seismic zones of India, such as the suitable required in the most sensitive seismic zone for sustainable human settlement. So here you have to talk about the seismic zones of the country. Seismic zonation is being done by IMD, National Geophysics Lab and Geological Survey of India. I have got zone 5, 4, 3, 2. And by default, this is the most vulnerable zone. Specify their location and identify the mitigation purview. Remember always that when I talk about earthquake, I talk about unpredictable natural hazard. And because it is unpredictable, the approach of its mitigation is preparedness and planning. That is the reason we are having the different mock drills that are being done. Sustainable human settlement is being applied. So I'll surely will be mentioning NDMA in my answer, because NDMA very clearly says earthquake do not kill. It is infrastructure collapse that results into the cause of human loss. So when I say human settlement, in accordance to the earthquake prone zone, there should be the planning of the infrastructure. Settlement planning at par with seismic. So once you have given examiner that I have got zone 5 at the plate boundary, or zone 3 along what is called the transform faults, you can easily justify the nature of settlement planning that can be applied. Question number 7, part B. It is about the blue flag certified beaches. The question reads, what are the characteristics of blue flag certified beaches? Discuss their significance in beach tourism. So by default, my answer begins with what is this blue flag certified beaches? So we take up the account of this with the reference of new recognition that has been there to our country. So with the partnership of United Nations Environment Program, IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, and United Nations World Tour Organization, Tourism Organization. It is Foundation for Environment Education centered in Denmark that have started this initiative. The purpose of this blue flag certified initiatives includes providing eco labels to the beaches, to the marinas, and to the boats, wherein in India, 8 beaches. Some examples you can certainly write up in your answer. Like I can take up the reference of Gogla in Diu, Daman and Diu, very good example that we can take up. We have got Radha Nagar in Andaman Nicobar, if I cite some example. What is the purpose of this? Because the question is saying what is the benefit that we'll be having. So it aims at promoting sustainable development of marine and coastal areas with 4-point objective: water quality management, environment management, environment education, making people aware of why they need to protect the environment, and safety. Because we need to be aware of the fact that coastal areas are becoming more vulnerable to the climate-induced problems. And you certainly can include that when I take up the reference of this, it is going absolutely at par with Indian eco-tourism that includes beach and coastal tourism under ICMBAs and ICZ. Answer gets ready. So benefit that you are taking up. I've already talked about question number 7 part C, so I go to question number 8. Question 8 part A. Analyze the changing nature of workforce composition vis-a-vis rural-urban divide in India. Workforce composition change. Be very cautious. Workforce composition. You have to have a comparison between rural and urban India. Compare it on the basis of gender, compare it on the basis of skill, compare it on the basis of CIT, compare it on the basis of infrastructure, and compare it on the basis of economic potential. Male-centric, near balanced, conventional, modernized, partial diffusion. We have taken one question already on this. Dominantly Internet of Things with artificial intelligence. Poor procurement, processing, and marketing infrastructure. Better. Strong. New skilling as urban areas are growth engines. Workforce composition in terms of its gender, in terms of its skill, in terms of CIT, infrastructure, and economic potential. Comparison becomes complete. Question number 8, part B. Describe economic, maritime, and strategic interest of India in South China Sea. India in South China Sea. I have been talking about this geopolitical reference in so many other videos. You can easily have a look on it. So it's something that we have been very consistently covering. But if I have to just take into account the reference of the changeover, we need to justify the fact that any of the economic or strategic cannot be segregated. So either you can take up them to be somewhere segregated, or you can write it up together. Like economically and strategically, Act East, RCEP, Indo-Pacific, Quad, rather we call it modified Quad. It is BRICS except China. I have got presence of ONGC Videsh Limited. I have got the naval drills that are being applied in these areas. It is oriented towards the choke points, the crude oil, and the complementarity. And finally, question number 8, part C. What kind of skill promotion programs have been mobilized for job deficit regions? So you have to start your answer with the nature of education program in the country. Like we have got disparity in the classroom education and its practical approach or practicality. There is the defined shortage of relevant skills. It is being said that maximum of our workforce will be absolutely outside the job market because of the impracticality of the skilling that we are inducing to them. And it is also related to the female force in the labor market. So you can justify the status which is there, and then you can take up the reference of job deficit area because that has been also asked. So rural areas, tribal areas, and other remote areas. So here we have got Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Here I have already talked about it. TriFed is functioning. Here we are having green jobs creation with the concerned authorities like Island Territory Development Authority. You can take up that. And of course, there is the requirement of mentioning Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. And Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana talks about education standards, industrial specific training, and it is also related to job linked skilling. So whether I talk about national manufacturing policy, which is oriented towards skilling India with job mobilization towards attainment of what is called gainful employment, or it is about promoting inclusion to the remote areas. All of them are counted there. This is what I wanted to share, and I hope it is going to help all of us in understanding how to go about with the questions and their answer framing. I have been told several times that it becomes difficult for us to integrate the things together, but that is what you need to practice. And I'm a very vocal supporter of that. Until and unless you write, you keep on writing. There is a consistency of writing which is required to develop this capacity of integrating. It's very hard for me to believe that any one of us who is preparing for civil services examination was not aware of these information. It's only about that given point in time, has the information clicked on. So take note of this and try to apply it. If you have attempted main, try to judge your level of performance. And if you will be writing your main, try to take this as the benefit towards your strategy of preparation. Happy learning to all of you. Bye-bye from my side for the time.